Now, this is worrying. Pharmacists in Devon have recorded an increase in violent crime, verbal and physical abuse in high street pharmacies this year. Sadly, this is the case all over the UK. In a recent survey, 89% of over 500 pharmacists that responded said they'd seen an increase in the number of violent incidents in the last year. The PDA, a union representing pharmacists, says the majority of their community pharmacist members feel unsafe at work. BBC Radio Devon's Matt Woodley has been speaking to Paul Day from the PDA.
For a long time, we've been campaigning to raise the issue of violence and abuse directed at community pharmacies, by which I mean what most people would call chemist shops. Patients go in, customers go in, and our members that are employed or work as locums in those shops sadly face regular levels of abuse. During lockdown, of course, pharmacies were one of the only things open during the most serious lockdown. Everyone was stressed and frustrated, and we were all in a world that we weren't used to, and they got huge levels of abuse. When the lateral flow tests started to run out and there were concerns about that, pharmacists again got increased levels of abuse, and it just seems to be an issue that won't go away.
Absolutely, but now, we're over 2 years down the road from the first lockdown, and things have changed, and for many people, lateral flow tests were a thing of yesteryear now. We've kind of moved on. Do you not think that the level of violence is going to drop away from here, or are you concerned that it is going to continue?
Well, one incident is an incident too many, and we've had serious issues of weapons being used, knives. There's been, around the UK, there's been some instances of stabbings of pharmacists, but it's also racial abuse. It's also just frustration. Now, we understand many people that go into a pharmacy may be unwell themselves, they may be under the influence of medication, they may be concerned about a loved one. And I think part of the background to this is that a chemist shop might look like a shop, but it isn't. It's a clinical health setting, and medicines aren't a normal item of commerce. Yes, it might take a grocer or a greengrocer 2 minutes to put some tomatoes in a bag, but pharmacists are doing a very sophisticated job in making sure the medicines they dispense will not cause harm to patients. And also, whilst clearly patients' care is a priority, that shouldn't be at the cost of the well-being of the pharmacist.
No,
so
absolutely.
Also demonstrate a zero tolerance of violence.
What more can be done? What other measures would you be calling for?
Well, it's on a branch-by-branch basis. What employers should do is assess the location. Are there gangs of people hanging around outside at the end of the shift where people feel vulnerable? Are there corners of the shop where people may be up to mischief and then come round frustrated? So it's potentially mirrors, it's training, it's panic buttons, it's having an emergency process for getting out if a patient is suddenly violent. But also it's this zero tolerance. It's saying that if a patient or their family or whoever is abusive or violent or threatens violence to a pharmacist or their staff, to ban that person from the pharmacy. Now, in an urban area, they may go to a different pharmacy. In a rural area, that might not be possible. But whilst we wouldn't block people receiving care, employers can block them from their premises and therefore protect their own staff.
And finally, Paul, what kind of impact is it having on your members? I mean, when you saw these survey results for the first time, how did they make you feel?
Sadly, they made us feel like this issue isn't going away, and we've been campaigning on it for years. In terms of the impact on the members, what it is doing, it is one of the factors that is driving pharmacists out of community pharmacy. And in other work that we've done, we've seen that this is one of the reasons, but not the only reason, why increasingly pharmacists don't want to work in that community pharmacy setting. And so, community pharmacies are the most accessible part of the NHS. You've got a qualified health professional in the heart of your community, and we need to be using that to its optimum. And at a time of GP shortages, when getting a doctor's appointment is difficult, the country could use a lot more of the pharmacy in a positive way. But if the pharmacists won't work there because they're regularly abused, then that isn't going to happen.
That's Paul Day from the PDA, the union which represents community pharmacists, talking to BBC Radio Devon's Matt Woodley.